What's going on, guys? Welcome back to day 5 of the TryHackMe Advent 2024. Today's a pretty awesome one. We're going to be learning a few things here. We're going to be learning about XML. We're going to be learning about XML External Entities, or XXE vulnerability. And we're also going to do some web app pen testing today. So let's dive in without further ado. Let's go ahead and get started. What we're going to do here is read this story so we're caught up, we understand what's going on in the storyline. So the days in Warville flew by, and Software's projects were nearly complete, just in time for Christmas. One evening, after wrapping up work, Software was strolling through the town when he came across a young boy looking dejected. Curious, Software asked, "What would you like for Christmas?" The boy replied with a sigh, "I wish for a teddy bear, but I know my family can't afford one." Christmas wishes. This brief conversation sparked an idea in Software's mind. What if there was a platform where everyone in town could share their Christmas wishes, and the mayor's office could help make them true? Excited by the potential, Software introduced the idea to Mayor Malware, who embraced it immediately. The mayor encouraged the team to build the platform for the people of Warville. Through the developers' dedication and effort, the platform was soon ready and became an instant hit. The townspeople loved it. However, in their rush to meet the holiday deadline, the team had overlooked something critical: thorough security testing. Yeah, that's pretty important. Even Mayor Malware had chipped in to help develop a feature in the final hours. Now it's up to you to ensure the application is secure and free of vulnerabilities. Can you guarantee the platform runs safely for the people of Wareville? So there you have it. We're basically in charge of security testing today for this website that was developed by Software. So let's go ahead and dive into it. You can see here the learning objectives. I kind of went over that already. XML, XXE, and web app exploitation of that vulnerability. So what we're going to do first is get a background on XML, right? We're going to understand a little bit about what it is, what it's used for, and then the actual vulnerability, understand the reason why it exists and how we're going to exploit it. And so instead of sitting here and reading this text, which you can do on your own, we're just going to hop into the attack VM. And also, if you haven't started up your VMs, I recommend scrolling down, hit start machine while we're doing this so that it's booting up and it's getting ready. And then up here, this button's going to say start attack box. Go ahead and do that too. Wait till that one's up, because we're going to be using that one, unless you have your own VM, to actually go through and look at this XML stuff. So hop over to your attack box. We're going to open up Sublime Text here. Just let that load. Alright, cool. So boom, I'm going to zoom in, make sure you guys can see that. Sweet. So what is XML, right? Well, XML, Extensive Markup Language, is used to transport and store data in a structured format in a way that's easy for humans and computers to understand. So you could think of it like a digital filing cabinet, right? So what does that really look like? Well, it's pretty simple. They give us an example here. So we'll go ahead and write that out, right? So you could think of this as the filing cabinet. And then inside that filing cabinet, what we're going to have is attributes that kind of, give us more information on that specific file, right? So right now we're looking at the people file, and we're going to give them a name. So we'll just do glitch, and then we're going to close it off similar to HTML, where you have the open and the close after each statement. And then here you would just put in everything that attributed to the people, right? So people are going to have a name, people are going to have an address, Warville, people are going to have an email, and etc. You get it, right? So that's kind of the basis of XML, right? So this is how we actually pass information in an easy to digest way. The next thing we have to look at here is how do we make sure everything is in a standard format to ensure that there's no errors when passing the data through and the computer knows how to recognize what it is immediately. That's where document type definitions come in, right? This is what we're doing here is essentially it's a set of rules that defines the structure of an XML document. You can think of it like a database scheme. So what we're doing here is we're saying the document type is going to be this, and inside that document we're going to have this required set of data, every single thing. So that's how you would look at this, right? We're defining the type of data we're going to be receiving, giving it a name, and then inside we can even add elements that are required. We can always add more, but these right here, in this, for example, in this would be required to actually be specified. So you can see here, element defines the tags that are allowed, like name, address, email, and the PC data tag stands for parsed people data, meaning it will consist of just plain text. So entities can be defined as internal or external, and they can, reference data from inside or outside, and that's how entities work. So you can see here in this example, we'll go through it. They're specifying the document type is still people, and here we're calling it external entity from the system, which it would be the server, web server in this case, and we're calling this file right here robots.txt, right? And then we have our data specified here for the people. So essentially what this is doing is we're storing the contents of this file in this entity right here, and then when this is called by the web server or processed, or whatever you want to say, this contents of this file will be displayed. So here we go, external entities, specifically diving into those, right? What is it? How does it work? So external entity, XML external entity vulnerability, what it does is it takes advantage of improperly configured external entity referencing in XML processing. And I know that sounds like alien language, but it's really simple when you dive down into it. So what it means is if you have external entity referencing enabled in your XML processing in your web server, then this can lead to people putting specific lines in there referencing files that they want to see. Like for example, here they have Etsy password that shows all the passwords on. It's where all the passwords are stored on the Linux. So essentially what that means is if you don't have proper sanitation and external entities are enabled, then people can inject commands into your XML processing. So when the web server goes to parse that file, it will do exactly what the line is saying. So for example, here what we're doing is we're getting the contents of this file, the password file on the Linux OS, storing it in THM file, and then we're processing the regular, people data that we need: name, address, email, phone. So what happens here is when this is processed by the web server, the contents of this file are going to be displayed, and we're actually going to see this today. We're going to go through it. We're going to walk through the whole thing, show you how it's done. So this whole thing will be displayed, and then that's breach of security, right? Because obviously we don't want people to see the passwords that are stored in this file, especially if it's an external person or attacker doing the thing, right? So that's a brief overview on XML. I mean, that's pretty much, there's way more to it, but that's everything we need to know to be able to execute today's vulnerability and web app pen testing activity. So let's go ahead and dive into it. So what we're going to do is go to this. What we're going to do is go to this IP here on our attack box. So we're going to close out of here, I'm gonna open up Firefox, and we're going to do this. So this is the product page, but let's just go to the home page. Yeah, just product. So here we go. We got our Wishville app. So the first step we want to do here, right? When you're genuinely doing pen testing, you just want to understand the normal flow of the thing that you're pen testing, right? Like, what are the expected inputs and outputs, and how does the whole thing flow? Once we understand how the whole thing works, we can then attack certain parts to see if we can manipulate the output based on an input that we give it. So what we're going to do is you're going to see how this works. So we got a home, we got products, and we got cart. So these looks like the 3 products. I'm going to go with the Santa hat because I like Santa hats. We're going to add that to our wish list. You can see it was successfully added. So let's go to the cart, and you can see it's in there, right? So let's proceed to checkout. Name, we'll just do Aaron, and address we'll do test, just because. And then we'll complete checkout. All right, boom, wish successfully. Your wish was saved at wish 21. If we try to click that, let's see what happens. All right, so you can see here we have a file, wish21.txt. That tells us that every time a wish is submitted, it is stored, and it is most likely stored in this format, right? Wish underscore and the number of the wish that you get, right? .txt. And these are all .txt files, and they're stored in the wishes directory on the web server. So this is a little bit of information we can keep in the back of our minds. But it looks like we don't have access to actually reading the wishes files. So it looks like Santa's elves are the only ones who can read Santa's wishes. Well, we're going to see about that. So what we're going to do now is we're going to open up Burp Suite, because we want to catch the web request to see if there's anything that we can do. So Burp Suite is a web vulnerability analyzer. It is one of the most popular ones out there. Other ones are like Zap or OWASP. Yeah, OWASP Zap is another popular one as well. Burp Suite is most of the time included in like Kali Linux, and most attack boxes are going to have Burp Suite just because it's the most commonly used one. But we're going to let this load up here. All right, boom. So we're in. Yeah, we can just do temporary. That's cool. Defaults. Yeah, it's cool. Start burp. All right, so now that we're up and running, let's go ahead and go to settings. We're going to search up this SAM box right here, and it's going to look like this unchecked. We're going to check that, and then we're going to exit out of here. We're going to go over to proxy, and we want to make sure we're in the intercept tab in proxy, and we're going to open the browser. So what we're going to do here is we're going to type in the same website that we were just on. The difference here is that Burp Suite, we're running through the Burp Suite proxy, which is going to capture all the traffic and everything we're doing on the site. So we're pretty much just going to go through and do everything we just did again, but this time we're going to be able to see all the traffic requests in Burp. So we go ahead and go there. Alright, so now that we've opened our browser, we are going to navigate to our IP here. And remember, this is going to be different for you, most likely, so make sure you're typing in the IP of your box and you're not typing in mine, because if you do that, it most likely will not work. So boom, hit that in, and you can see here we have caught the request. So you can see here we've caught the requests. If we go to HTTP history, we have some product.php pages. Let's just see what happens if we. Okay, so Got some snow effect. So we got some interesting pages here. So we got the product IP, we got the snow effect, just causing my computer a lot of lag. And some other files here. Sweet. So okay, so look, here we have some XML. But anyways, so it looks like we got everything they have here. So now what we need to do is navigate through the whole thing, right? We want to add to the page. So we'll just put this in, and I'm gonna change this to just forward. Okay. So just to explain what happened there, when you're on the proxy browser of Burp, every time you navigate to a site, it is going to stay in that loading. You saw the circle here, loading, right? And that's because it's pretty much like paused from going all the way through because we're intercepting the traffic. So when we use the forward button, what that's saying is we're good on this part. Let's go ahead and go and load the page, so that way we can do our next step here. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna click the add to wish list button, and you can see, boom, we intercepted it. So let's go take a look. All right, let me close that. Boom. So wishlist.php. Let's go to the history, see what that's looking like. Here it is, wishlist.php. All right, boom, we got some XML, right? So we can see here user ID is 1 and the product ID is 1. So let's go back over here. Yep, that's exactly what we got. So now what we're gonna do is, oh, and also we see that it's being forwarded as a post request. So the difference between get and post HTTP stuff. Get is when you're asking the server to get something for you and then display it. So get is like, you're reaching out trying to get something, and then post is essentially you saying a request, right? You're sending a request to the server. So here they're going to show us exactly how the request is being processed. We can see here disabling entity loader is false, which means that it will parse external and internal entities. And then here what this is doing is it's saying we're loading the string, which would be whatever this XML data is. So this is the library that resolves external entities. So essentially what this code is doing is essentially takes the XML data, parses it without any care in the world, essentially no input sanitation and enabling external entities, and then it just says item added to your wish list successfully. So that right there is a red flag. This means that we can put pretty much anything in there and it'll read it and do it. So that's where we're gonna be using our vulnerability, right? So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna test to see if this vulnerability works, right? Because in the real world, we're not gonna have the code, we're not gonna know if it works or not. So we're gonna have to test, right? And how we do that is we get this post, we're gonna right click, we're gonna send to repeater, we're gonna go over to repeater, and then boom, you can see here we're in repeater, right? What repeater does in Burp is it allows you to resend requests over and over again and see the response the server would give us. In this way, it's just easier for us to test when we're doing web app penetration testing or fuzzing a web app to see if there's any vulnerabilities. So that way we're not like reloading and going through the pages and doing all this and the other. This is just an easy way to do it. And now what we're doing is we're testing to see if the XE vulnerability is working. So what we're trying to do is use this line here. I'll just show you over here, it's bigger. This line here to see if we can get the parser to parse our external entity. And what we're doing is we're specifying a doc type here, foo. We're having an entity payload, and we're storing Etsy host file contents in that payload entity. And then down here, we're going to display it by referencing the variable here, or the entity. And ampersand is just a symbol for reference, so essentially you can read this as reference payload here, and then what that's going to do is display the contents of this file if this does work, right? So let's go ahead and do that in burp. You can see I've already copied over the line here, and now all we need to do is type the reference here, and we're going to hit send. Boom, there you go. So we can see that our vulnerability is working because we were able to display the Etsy host file by injecting our XML code here. So what this tells us is that we are able to do a lot of things. So let's go ahead and see if we can read those wish lists by using this vulnerability. So what we're doing here is we're taking a few assumptions, right? So we know that the wishes are stored in wishes and then the file. So we need to assume what comes before that, and typically server files are stored in this directory on Linux. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put this as our file, and we're gonna see if we can read the first wish that was made. So let's go ahead and do that. Everything else stays the same. All we're doing is we're changing the directory here. So we're gonna do var www.html wishes wish, and then remember our file format underscore the number dot text. So let me just double check that's right. No. Yeah. So once we hit send here, what we should see is the contents of the first wish file. So let's go ahead and do that. Boom. There you go. So it's working. You can see here the person who did the first wish was Mayor Malware, and he was getting the Wardy Kane. Okay. So if you remember, we were the 21st wish, which means there's 20 wishes that we could potentially look at. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna go and see if we can see the other ones. Okay, so Mayor Malware also had the second wish. He was doing some testing to make sure it worked, I guess. Oops. Alright, wish 4, wish 5, wish 6, and what I'll do is, so you guys don't have to sit here and see all these, I could skip to the end. Okay. Alright guys, so we're at wish 15, and yes, I did go through every single one painstakingly. I'm sure there's a way to like automate this and do it a little bit quicker, but that's just how I did it. So we can see here, wish 15, he put we have a flag in here. So yep, that's exactly what we did, brute force. So I'm just gonna copy this over because this is one of the flags that we have to put in there. So I'm gonna go ahead and put that here, submit. Boom, there you go. The next flag is on the possible proof of sabotage. So what we've learned is how to first detect and exploit XXE vulnerabilities on web apps, and the conclusion here is the mitigation, right? So in order, and we've talked about this before, in order to mitigate this, best practice says disable external entity loading and then validate and sanitize user input. And so what this does is, one, we won't even be able to parse external entities, and two, we're always going to be reading the input to ensure that nothing weird is put in there, like for example Etsy host and Etsy password, or things that we don't want outside people to be able to access, right? So after discovering the vulnerability, McSkitty immediately remembered there's a changelog file that exists within the web application stored at the following endpoint. So after checking it, it can be seen that someone pushed the vulnerable code within the application after software's team. With this discovery, McSkitty still couldn't confirm whether the mayor intentionally made the application vulnerable. However, the mayor had already become suspicious, and McSkitty began to formulate theories about his possible involvement. So if we remember from the story, the mayor actually did jump in and help software develop this. And it looks like he may have done this intentionally, or maybe not, because he is a mayor. He probably doesn't have coding skills. But let's go ahead and go to this page here and see what it's all about. So we're done with burp. We can just close this out. And we'll open a new Firefox tab, and we will go to the changelog. So here you have it. Alright, so here's the changelog. So here we have the initial commit by software, then he finished the landing page and initial CSS, and then he was working on the wishlist page, and he still needed to handle XML parsing, and then Mayor Malware stepped in and finished that wishlist page for us, and we can see another flag here. And this is where the vulnerability was introduced, is when Mayor Malware finished the wishlist page and implemented the XML parsing without software's quality assurance check. So we'll just paste that in here. Oh, we already got it. And then we'll go over here and submit. And you can see here we have an XXE room. So if you want to learn more about the vulnerabilities and XML in general, highly recommend this room. And then we can see, following McSkitty's advice, software recently hardened the server. It used to have many unneeded open ports, but not anymore. Not that that matters in any way. So appreciate you guys watching this through. What we learned today, we learned what XML is, what an XXE vulnerability is and how it works, why they happen, and how to mitigate it. Then we did some web app pen testing. We learned about Burp Suite, how to use it, how to send requests, how to capture requests, all that good stuff. And TryHackMe does have rooms for each individual part. So they have XXE room, they have Burp Suite room, they have web penetration testing rooms. So if you want to dive into any more of those concepts in a deeper way, check out those rooms. As always, this is Aaron, aka Cyber Sensei. Appreciate you guys stopping by. If you liked the video, leave a like. If you want to follow the rest of the admin with me, subscribe. And if you feel like someone would get a benefit out of this, please share the video with them. As always, take care guys. Peace until the next one.